Started, guys. So I am also going to be talking about movement today, funnily, being at a gym as we are. But I'm going to talk about movement from a different standpoint to Duncan, or a slightly different standpoint to Duncan, because we agree on most things. But I'm going to be really talking from a health perspective. As a chiropractor and wellness coach, I spend a lot of time talking to people about their bodies, about their health, about the way their bodies are moving, diet, exercise, all those sort of things. So really that's what I'm going to incorporate into this talk. So, I always like to start off with a few statistics to give you a bit of an idea of where we're going in terms of our health in Australia. I always ask people about how they think we're doing in terms of our health, and typically the answers nowadays aren't very positive. And the stats really back that up. About 80% of the total disease burden in Australia is caused by chronic disease, and most of those are lifestyle-related diseases, so related to what you eat, related to the way you exercise, related to the thoughts you think. People say, oh yeah, but that's because we're getting older. Well, 40% of 15-year-olds have some kind of chronic disease in our society now. Like 40% of 15-year-olds, that's massive. So it's not just the older ones, it's the younger ones as well. 1 in 4 people are taking pain relievers every single day. You look at the stats on those, you look at the side effects of those, they're enormous. More than 6.5 million Australian adults are overweight or obese. We're actually, in terms of overweight and obese, if you put those two together, we're the leading country in terms of developed nations. We have more overweight and obese people than America do. Massive. And 32% of the adult population are physically inactive, which basically means they do nothing. All right? And that, obviously, that sedentary lifestyle is a massive contributor to our disease burden in our society. So just a few quotes that we've got here about movement and why movement is so important for your body. So proper movement has now been likened to an essential nutrient for your brain's function and development. Now, we used to think of movement as a bit of an optional extra. If we want to do a bit of extra fitness to keep us fit, now we're saying it's an essential nutrient. Your body simply does not function properly without it. Exercise improves brain and overall health due to increased oxygen and blood flow. That's pretty straightforward. The neurological stimulation of the pathways between moving joints, especially spinal joints, this is where chiropractors get really excited, and the brain, sorry, I've started halfway through my quote, but basically what the study is saying is it's not the aerobic capacity that matters. It's not, that traditional cardio Duncan was talking about before is not actually what matters. It's really the quality of the movement that you're getting. And so it's proper stimulation of the nerve endings in your spinal cord. They're called proprioceptors, about 80% of them are in your spine. Proper stimulation of those is actually what fires messages up to your brain and what switches on your brain and switches on your health. So it's really important. All right. This is one of my favourites. Spinal movement and brain function could be likened to a windmill that generates power, electricity for a power plant. So the more structurally distorted we are, the less energy we have for metabolism, for healing, and for thinking. So this is a pretty smart guy, won a Nobel Prize. And he's saying that basically the way we move our bodies, the way we stimulate our nervous systems is affecting our brain, it's affecting our health. Alright, I've got a whole series of stuff here. Duncan's instructed me to keep it short today, so I won't go too much into all this stuff. But there's a whole heap of statistics around physical activity and physical inactivity and what they do to our bodies. But really when we're looking at those lifestyle diseases, strokes, cancers, diabetes, heart disease, there's massive amounts of information that the way we're moving our bodies is significantly affecting those. So, I also want to talk to you about stress, because stress is a big issue in our society now. We're seeing huge amounts of stress in our lives and huge amounts of stress in our bodies. When I talk about stress, I don't just talk about what we typically think of, emotional stress, but physical stress, chemical stress, right? The way we're eating, the way we're moving, the way we're exercising is all stressing, or the lack of is all stressing our bodies. And you don't need to speak to too many people in our modern society to realise that pretty much everybody is stressed in our modern world. Okay. The reason that is so important is that when your body's not stressed, you're geared towards gut, you're geared towards growth, and you're geared towards gestation. Right? You're geared towards those daily bodily functions that are keeping your body functioning well and keeping your body healthy. Okay? When you are stressed, you're geared towards fight or flight. All right? And those two cannot both be switched on at once. You've either got the stress response switched on, or you've got the gut growth and gestation response switched on. All right? So what we need to work on is figuring out why we're so stressed, minimising those stress levels, which is going to have a big impact on your health. The reason for that is a bit of a rundown of what happens when you get stressed. All right? When that fight or flight response kicks in, we've got adrenaline and cortisol released into your body. All right? Your blood vessels constrict, your blood pressure increases. You have pupil dilation. So you're looking at changes to your blood vessels, changes to your blood pressure, which is closely linked with strokes and heart disease. All right? We're looking at increased blood glucose, so sugars get released into your bloodstream, which means you get increased insulin resistance and increased risk of diabetes. Blood cholesterols change, you get more cholesterol into your bloodstream, once again linking with that heart disease we spoke about. And anxiety, fear, stress and depression are all linked with those stress hormones. It also switches off your growth hormones and your anabolic hormones, all right? It switches off your reproductive hormones, it switches off your short-term and long-term memory, it switches off your immune system, right? And not just your immune system that fights off coughs and colds, but your immune system that helps fight off cancers and all those other chronic diseases as well. So you see changes in digestion, you see changes in growth, sex drive, bone density is a really big one. So basically what I'm getting at here is all of the major lifestyle diseases we have in our society now can be linked into this stress response. The fact that our bodies are stressed because of our lifestyle factors. So heart disease, strokes, diabetes, cancer, and heaps more as well. So what we want to talk about is what switches off that stress response, because I know that's probably the question you all want to know. And the answer to that is proprioception. The way your body is designed to switch off that stress response is by moving. Think about it like the caveman way back when. Like their stress would be, fighting a saber-toothed tiger. They'd either fight it or they'd run away from it. Hopefully run away, it's probably a better option. And in doing that, they'd move, they'd get their exercise. They'd move, particularly their spine, fires off this proprioception, which is messages back to your brain, which help to release dopamine and serotonin, which switches off that stress response in your body. So when I talk about why move well, Duncan spoke about a little bit of this stuff before, but when I talk about why you should be exercising, I don't talk about to decrease disease risk. I don't talk about to feel better. I don't talk about to be fitter. I don't talk about to look better. I don't talk about to lose weight. All of those things are perfectly valid things, but it's not the best reason to exercise. The reason for that is there's heaps of bad ways of doing all of those things. There's heaps of bad ways of trying to look better. You might take anabolic steroids. It's going to be really unhealthy for you, but it'll give you bigger muscles. There's heaps of bad ways to lose weight. There's all sorts of them out there on the market nowadays that are really unhealthy for you, but great at getting you to lose weight. So what your goal should be is to get and stay healthy. If you make a goal to get and stay healthy, then the decisions and the actions you take are actually going to help you get and stay healthy. They're going to actually help you do all of those other things I spoke about, but they're going to do it in a healthy way. So all of those other things are just side effects of getting and staying healthy. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. So it helps when you're talking about exercise to look back at what we would have done traditionally. Right? So I always like to look back at our hunter-gatherer ancestors. They say that our genes haven't changed basically in the last 100,000 years, or if they have, they've changed very little. So if we look back at our hunter-gatherer ancestors, the amount of exercise, the amount of work they did can be a good indication of how much exercise we should be doing, and also what types of exercise, because they were doing, Duncan spoke before about that functional exercise, they were doing really functional exercise, and that's what our body needs, and I think Duncan's spoken enough about that already. All right. A lot of the time people think, well, I'm really physically active at work, or I'm really physically active at home, isn't that enough? And what I find is, and once again, Duncan's kind of covered this already, so I won't spend too long on it, but you're not getting enough variety. Your average bricklayer spends his whole day laying bricks, but he's not doing a lot of other stuff. He's a bit like that marathon runner Duncan spoke about before. They don't have that functionality. I think we've spoken about that enough already. And they don't always have the right quality of movement. And I'm going to go on in a second and talk about what I mean when I say quality movement. And obviously the quantity. So the first thing I want to talking about quality of movement, is the difference between global movement and segmental movement. Right? As a chiropractor, I find I often see people in my practice who tell me that they're really flexible, that they've got great range of motion, that they can, turn the same each side, all of those sort of things. So what they've got is really good global movement. What they often don't have is really good segmental movement. So what that means is they'll have some joints in their spine that aren't moving very well. They may be stuck, they may be fixated, they may be subluxated, which means they cause interference to your nervous system. Because of that, their joints above and below will actually compensate. So they then have other joints which are moving too much to compensate for the ones that aren't moving well enough. Does that make sense? So those people then have really good global movement, but kind of poor segmental movement. So we need to look at both of those options. And we need to look at the idea that your structure governs the function. All right. So if you've got some misalignment, particularly in your spine, because that's really the core of the core of your body. If you've got some misalignment there, if that's not functioning very well, if it's not structurally aligned very well, then you're going to have effects on your function, and not just the function of the movement of your spine, but the function of the whole rest of your body. And I'm going to talk about that in a sec, how that structure of your spine affects the whole rest of your body. Okay, I'm going to talk about it now. So what I would say to you is exercise is fantastic. It's really important. It's really useful. It's going to help you give some fitness. It's going to help you with stability. It's going to help you with your health. But if you've got an underlying structural issue in your spine, that means you've got structural instability. If it means you've got interference to your nervous system, then the rest of your body, no matter how much you train it, no matter how much you exercise it, is not going to function as well as it should. Those nerves that come out from your spine there control every cell, every tissue, every organ in your body. And what we see, if you have a look on the right here, when you've got that interference there, if that spine isn't structurally aligned properly, you get this interference to these nerves coming out from there. Okay? You think of that a bit like a garden hose. You know when you step on the garden hose and not as much water comes out the end, and you let it go and it sprays in your dad's face and you think it's really funny? Right? Think of it like that. You step on that garden hose, not as much water comes out the end. You step on that nerve and the messages don't get through properly. Right? Not just pain fibres. People think it's only have a problem when it hurts, but only 10% of the nerve fibres that come out from there are pain fibres. The other 90% control everything else, all your cells, all your tissues, all your organs, all your glands. And also all of the muscles of your body. So all of that whole skeletal system is controlled and regulated. So, that was a very brief one today. I was instructed to keep it short, so I tried to. I hope I didn't speak too fast. But thank you for that. As I said, my name is Dr. Brett Hill. I do lots of regular seminars around the place. I do have future seminars. I hold a regular monthly seminar in my practice, sometimes on exercise, sometimes on diet, sometimes on nutrition. You're more than welcome to come along to any of those if you wish. If you want to find out about them, just have a look on my website or sign up for my newsletter, which is drbretthill.com. I do repeat seminars. Basically, my rule is I want to get this information out to as many people as possible. I basically tell everyone, if you can get 5 people together in a room, I'll come and talk to them because I love doing it. And questions? Anybody got any questions for me? I'm sure somebody does. Yes?
When you chiropractic, I think we discussed earlier today about muscles getting tighter and needing to be realised.
Yes.
When you get bones realised, is there a need to then have some physiotherapy or massage to help the muscles release?
Look,
or if the bone sort of, if it goes back in place, it sort of stays in place?
yeah, look, I mean, it's not going to hurt to do that, to get a massage to help that area relax, but it's not something you need to do. If you get that aligned properly, if you get the nervous system functioning properly, it's going to allow those muscles to relax. It's going to take away the reason they were guarding and protecting in the first place, and that allows those muscles to relax down. So, to answer the question?
Yeah.
Good. Cool, what else, guys? Cool, all right, well, thank you very much. I'll let you get back to going and checking out all the stalls. We are doing free posture checks over here today, so if anyone's interested, come across, have a chat. Any questions, say hello. Thanks, guys.